Come, hang on. I'm going to call the Star City Council meeting to order. It's Tuesday, September 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. I'd like you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we have Mr. Dylan Austin here tonight from Life Spring Church to do our invocation. And I think that is on, right, Ryan? It's on now. All right.
All right. Good. It's on. Thank you for having me this evening. If you would, I'd like to invite you in prayer as we go to God for this meeting tonight. Father God, thank you so much for this community. Thank you for the city of Star. God, I pray for the proceedings tonight. I pray for the discussion that it can be fruitful. God, I pray that even though we might have different approaches, how best to help our community, God, that we know that deep down we all have a heart for Star and that we want what's best. So I pray that we can treat each other with respect and that we can honor you in that and give grace where it's needed. God, I just pray for this city and for this town and for these great people that we can love our neighbors. And God, what an amazing opportunity it is just to be right here in this great town. So I just thank you for that. I can't give you enough praise for that. And so God, I just pray for the people here tonight and that you can be in this place and be with our meeting tonight. Thank you so much. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Austin. Appreciate you for doing that. Okay, roll call.
Hershey,
Here.
Wheelock,
Here.
Salmonson,
Here.
Nielsen.
And Nielsen is absent. He is out of country, so he's excused. He may try to join if he can, but that's hard when you're in another country, right? All right, thank you. So we have a quorum. So tonight we have a domestic violence proclamation. As we know, domestic violence is one of the most horrific things, whether it's on men, women, or children. We're going to proclaim, I believe it's October, right, as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So I'm going to read this proclamation to you. Whereas domestic violence is defined as abusive behavior in a personal relationship that gives one member control and power over another through physical, emotional, sexual, economic, or psychological actions or threats. And whereas an estimated 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will face domestic abuse in their lifetime. And whereas a range of services and programs exist throughout the Treasure Valley, providing safety, healing, and freedom from domestic abuse and sexual assault, including forensic exams and medical care, secure shelters, court advocacy, counseling, childcare, as well as case management. And whereas the City of Star is an important partner with the Women's and Children's Alliance and Faces of Hope to provide a safety net of crisis services and create a community where individuals thrive in safe, healthy relationships. Now, therefore, I, Trevor A. Chadwick, Mayor of the City of Star, Idaho, do hereby join national and local officials in proclaiming October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Star, signed this 20th day of September, 2022. And, you know, I think in today's world with everything, so everybody's angry, right? And it's a challenge. I think we need to look out for one another and our neighbors. And if you see stuff like this happening to your neighbors, please report it and get them the help they need on there. So, and I believe Jennifer is going to attend an event on what day? The 30th of September about this proclamation. So I'm going to give this back to you, Ms. Dana. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We're on to item 5, the consent agenda.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman.
I move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of item 5A, the minutes for September 6th, 2022 and April 19th, 2022. Item 5B, findings of fact for the Addington subdivision, and item 5C, the final plat for Griner Hope Springs subdivision number 6.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Hershey. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. We'll move on to item 6, the city council sign proposal. Before you, you have a proposal for us to replace our sign out front. As you know, that is, it's a sign that was originally here, and it's very difficult to operate for our employees. And we could do a much better job of messaging to our citizens here in our community. If you do approve this, the monies will come out of savings, and we would have to adjust our budget for that too, add it to our budget for this fiscal year. And you can see here, we're going to keep the same top and stuff for our sign. This will be the electronic component here in the middle. It could be operated remotely inside City Hall or away from City Hall to get messaging out quickly on everything. And we're going to raise this about 12 inches too, because I know we've had some challenges with the vegetation out there seeing it. The proposal on this sign, I did send it out to several agencies, and this is the only one that sent it to me. So just so you're aware, everybody seems to be really busy on this. So it's about $31,650 in order for us to get that replaced and taken care of. You guys have any questions?
How high would the lettering be? I mean, you said 12 inches higher than the one that's presently there?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So it's on this
more
drawing right
visible.
here. You're talking the overall height, the bottom of the,
No, the part that you need to read,
well, it starts at 20 inches from the ground and then goes up 2 feet, 1 inch above that.
it'll say more than Happy New Year.
It'll say more than Happy New Year.
Sure.
Gonna have my logo on it.
Oh, there we go.
All
Been
right.
approved.
Whatever Miss Dana wants to put on there. So we're gonna have it, it'll be operated from inside City Hall. And like I said, if we're closed down and we have to get something out quickly, we can do it remotely and get it out there as well. So,
Cool. Well,
Okay.
I-
so I'd entertain a motion to approve or
I-
not approve.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I've seen signs like this before. It's really hard to get a price comparison, but you went out, you did what we're supposed to do, and you got one bid. I know what happens when that happens. Just take it or leave it. It doesn't seem too unrealistic to me, to be quite honest with you, so I move that we approve this.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Why don't you give us a dollar amount on there to
Oh,
approve?
to not to exceed $31,650, because it looks like it has, yeah, okay, that's labor and manufacturing, right?
So we got a motion to approve the amount of 31, not to exceed the 31,650 by Councilman Hershey. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilwoman Salmonson. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries, and I'm going to tell you, you probably get a lot of hugs from our City Hall staff who continue to bust their knuckles trying to use this old one out there. So thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item 7. I'll say that again.
I've been saying get a new sign for 6 years or however long I've been on council.
I know, it's crazy, huh? Okay, we're going to move on to item 7A, the public hearing for the Barron Properties Commercial Rezone. We're going to have the applicant come up and speak. It is 7:08 PM. And I'm going to open the public hearing and ask the council if they have any ex parte contact or communication regarding this proposal.
No, sir.
None.
Okay, hearing none. Miss Deb, are you the one that's going to come up here? Okay, I'm going to have, let me get this back up here. I'm sorry. I try to lose this for you. And I think you have the clicker right there and you just point it this way toward, there we
Yep.
go. Perfect. The floor is yours, Miss Deb.
Thank you. Evening, Mayor and council members. Deborah Nelson, 601 West Bannock Street in Boise, here on behalf of the applicant Barron Properties, and members of the applicant team are here with me this evening. We're here to ask you for commercial rezone of this property. This is located at the corner of Calhoun and Wild Branch and fronts on West State Street, right adjacent to the Highway 16. The property is annexed in the city already and is currently zoned commercial neighborhood C1. We're requesting to rezone this to commercial general C2. There's no specific development plan at this time, so this is just a rezone request. But C2 zoning will enable the owner to market the property, for commercial uses that are appropriate along an arterial at the corner of two major state highways. The requested rezone is consistent with your future land use map. The property is designated commercial on the flume now. This designation supports C2 zoning. The adjacent property to the west along State Street is also designated commercial. To the southwest, when you get further away from the highway there's compact residential to the southwest and high-density residential immediately to the south. The property across State Street to the north is designated industrial. The rezone to C2 also supports goals within the comprehensive plan. The staff report identified several of them. I'll just highlight two of them. In 856B, your comp plan encourages commercial facilities to locate on transportation corridors. And goal 7.3, which provides for building a stronger community through enhancing and developing STAR's economy. The stated purpose of the C2 zoning district is also consistent with what we're proposing here. It allows for the establishment of areas of commercial uses that are typically located adjacent to arterial roadways. And again, this property is located fronting a state highway 44 and adjacent to highway 16. So it gets great visibility there. The proposed C2 zoning is also compatible with the adjoining zoning district. Our property is here in blue. Along State to the west is zoned C2, same as what we're asking. To the southwest, LO, to the south, higher density residential. The site will comply with all of the regulations outlined for the C2 zone. There's actually no changes in dimensional standards or setbacks between C1 and C2, so that'll be the same. And again, continuing down your criteria for zoning, the change to C2 zoning is not materially detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. In fact, we believe that the increased opportunities through C2 zoning will benefit the general public because it allows for development in conformity with the surrounding uses, the adjacent C2 zoning, while adding to the city's economic base, and provides for a diversification of future businesses on this highly visible intersection. The change to C2 zoning will also not result in any adverse impact on the delivery of services. The property is already located within the city. Sewer and water are available to the property, and the property is within your police and fire response times. We do ask you to add a condition of approval consistent with a request from ACHD that the applicant is agreeable to. That prior to your approval of future development plans on this site, we've got to provide documentation that ITD has approved the right-in, right-out driveway onto State Highway 44 that has been proposed along the adjacent property to our west. And then that right-in, right-out would be constructed to ITD standards. And ACHD is asking for that because they want to make sure that the roadway network around this site continues to support the development. And the applicant was agreeable to that. And so we have added that as a condition of approval. We have two requested changes to staff's recommended conditions. In the staff report on page 16, page 89 of the larger packet, I believe it is, if I'm understanding the numbers on this, but 16 of the staff report, the staff has recommended a number of uses within C2 not be allowed as they would be and normally if we just had straight C2 zoning. And we are agreeable to almost all of them to accept those restrictions. There's 3 uses that are outright prohibited, and then there's other uses that are required to be conditional use permits. These 2, we just ask for some accommodation on to change. The brew pub wine tasting, this other restaurants are allowed in the C2, and we see this as a restaurant use. And so, and this could be a nice location for a restaurant use that would be able to serve the higher density residential and nearby residential to provide walk-up neighborhood restaurants that could be nice. That just to allow that would be our request there and not make that a conditional use permit. A second one, the building material, garden equipment and supplies. As I understand it, retail uses are still allowed in the C2, and that's not recommended to be restricted. As I understand the concern here, the staff's recommendation was really in recognition of that this is a gateway property coming into the city, and the city wants to have some control over the design aesthetic of this use. It's not the use itself that was objectionable. And so, we want to make sure we've got the best opportunity to recruit national retailers that could be in the building supply arena to this site. I think that might be an opportunity for them to be located. And so what we do ask, we understand the gateway concern. And so we ask, instead of requiring conditional use permit, which really deals with the use itself, to try to address the aesthetics of it, to not only have this go through your design review committee, but then also come back to council for final review. We propose that to be in just a non-public hearing where you're just coming back and similar to your administrative design review process, reviewing that and confirming that as an administrative matter. And so if that were acceptable to you, that's what we request as a modification to the conditions that were proposed. There is an existing development agreement on the property. And so with this rezone to C2, we would have a new development agreement that would be consistent with the staff report and our requested changes if you agree to them. Then I think that's all I have for you tonight. Just request your consideration of the C2 zoning. We think this is a nice opportunity to promote continued economic growth along your State Street corridor. And we'd stand for any questions.
Okay, you guys have questions, applicant? I just want to ask just one clarifying question though, real quick, of staff and the applicant, Sean. So originally it was a zone as a C1 under our old code, which allowed these uses in a C1, right? And then we switched to C2, similar to what happened to Paul Larson's property. Is that correct?
Correct. The C1 is more of a neighborhood commercial
Okay,
designation, which was more applicable for the Larson property up against Heron River. But we had recommended that the Barron Group change theirs to C2 for more of a highway commercial designation, which allows more opportunity for the property.
okay. Thank you. Councilman Hershey, sorry about that.
Oh, no, yes, sir. Thank you, by the way. Darn it. Oh, all right. Final review and non-public hearing for council. How would we do that?
Well, Chris, would that just be an action item that
Like
we
a
would put on
consent
there to
agenda?
vote for it and approve it? Or would it be a consent agenda item that you would approve what the design review approved? Yeah, well, the design review committee, we have a design review committee now that would review the design. And then when we're saying it's coming back to the council as a non-public hearing, would it just come in as a consent agenda item? Just not a discussion item, really?
All right.
I mean, how would that work? We're asking the question. Maybe you know, I don't know, Ms. Deb, being land use too.
It could be either. I mean, I think it's going to depend on how much the council wants to talk about it. It could certainly be put on as a consent agenda item since the design review board or committee would have already looked at it. And then if a council member wanted to discuss it, you can pull it off the consent agenda and have that conversation.
Okay,
I don't think the intent is that the design review would review and make a decision, and then it comes back for another decision and full discussion by the city council. I think, as I'm understanding it, the intent is generally just going to be more of a ratification.
right.
Unless there's a problem with it, then the council might want to discuss it. And so in that respect, I would think it was probably going to be a consent agenda item unless there's issues.
So does that answer your question, Councilman Hershey?
Yeah, just one thing to be clear on is if we do pull it down, sometimes it's just a matter of misunderstandings and then it's back up on the consent. Other times, we might have to bring you in anyway. So that's just a thing that possibly.
Yeah, and I think on the night that it's in, that they would, hopefully you would be here,
Yes.
just in case just so we can answer questions or whatnot of them. And make
Okay.
changes as necessary, I think, right?
But-
Yeah, Mayor Chadwick, so I guess my question is that step really necessary? I mean, if the design review committee is reviewing it,
Yeah.
we have pretty good, criteria of what we've all agreed on for the architecture and design components. And so does council really need to see it again? Or can staff make that decision? I guess what was your reasoning for bringing
Well,
it back?
the reasoning there is because I brought up the concern.
Oh,
More than
okay.
anybody bringing up the
I
concern.
don't think we want
And the-
just a big box going into.
Well, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the question that came up. And this was an idea from them to allow the council to have a final say at making certain that this is what we want to see on the corner, even outside of what the design review committee says.
And we're agreeable to that, for
Yeah.
it to come back to council, just trying to think of a mechanism. It sounded like, asking Sean, this was a mechanism you guys had used at least on some business items, but it probably was along the lines of what Chris is outlining. It goes on consent. And then if you want to discuss it, if you have questions or concerns with what the design review committee, it would give you an opportunity to ask us.
Yep. I think we're getting a lot better at things like a design review committee. I mean, usually we were the first stop.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I'm years of that in my brain. So,
Councilman Wheelock?
sorry.
If we're gonna go back and review it in a consent agenda, would we be able to have that discussion,
We can,
change stuff without opening a public hearing? Is that, you know what I mean? Because we've done that where we had to have go back and have a public meeting anyway. And they came back because they didn't like what we said after they had closed the public hearing.
so let me ask you, Chris, we could discuss that and make changes because it's not a public hearing,
Right, there's a difference
Product.
between public hearing and public meeting.
right? A public meeting.
And so the public hearings, of course, have to have the 15 days of notice notice and all that. That's not what we're talking about here. Now, that's why it's saying a non-public hearing. And so if it came back, anything that's on the consent agenda, any meeting, you have the ability to say, you don't want to talk about this, you pull it off, put it on the agenda later. And you have a full conversation about it, just like you would any other agenda item. And you'd have an opportunity to discuss it with the applicant. You just wouldn't open it up to the entire public to weigh in on it. It would just be a conversation between the council and the applicant on what you're thinking about, what you're, whether it's clarifications or suggested changes or whatever, and you have that conversation, you can approve it. But you would have it in the packet in front of you when it was on the consent agenda item, just like the final plats and other things that you get. And so you would have a chance to review it on your own ahead of the meeting and decide if you had questions or concerns. If you didn't, you'd approve it as part of the consent agenda. If there's concerns, you'd pull it off and have that conversation. And it may just be a conversation with the council. Like, is this really what we want? Everyone says, yep, it is. Okay, approve it. Or maybe something you talk. So there's a big range of what this will look like when it's actually on the agenda in front of the council, but it could be anything from just a quick vote to a more extended conversation with the applicant.
Sean? Yeah, Sean, I think wanted to say
Mayor
something.
and council, I think it needs to be clear that if you approve what the applicant is asking tonight, you're approving the use. What you'd be looking at is the design. So I don't
Right.
want, Councilmember Hershey made a comment about a big box. Well, under this allowance tonight, you're approving the uses that she's asking.
Yeah,
for.
no, I
So you
didn't
wouldn't be able
mean
to come back.
that.
at this
I was
and say,
meaning-
no, we don't want that.
I don't want to see like a
that use.
giant square cinder block.
You can talk more about the design, layout, and stuff like that. I just
That's
wanna make
what I
sure
was
that's-
referring to.
That's clear.
You want a pretty big box.
Fairly
A
big.
Purdy one.
And
Yeah,
again,
pretty.
Mr. Mayor and Council, we have a committee set up to review this, and hopefully when it came to you for that final review, that everything would be.
And it's been pretty, I mean, it's a new thing. We've only been doing it for a
That's-
month and it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Right.
I'm not used to that, having actually someone see it first and say, hey, this is cool, or this is uncool. I'm pretty sure they'll say it's cool. but,
For me, I just, because it's an entryway to our city, it's just important that it's all ratified and that we're good. So there's not a question.
Yeah, well, I'm
Right.
quite comfortable with the design review committee's recommendations and a consent agenda item, because we can pull it down, talk about it, and put it back up.
I would,
But we're getting in deliberations kind of right now, but
Oh,
let's
then
ask
I
her
have no other
questions
questions.
first.
Yeah.
Hold that thought for just a minute.
hold that thought.
You guys have any other questions of staff or Ms. Deb?
Yeah, no, you addressed all my questions I had prior in your presentation, so thank you.
Okay. Ryan, do we have anybody signed up to speak?
Yeah, we
Oh, right here, sorry.
Yep.
I can't, oh, Greg Hector, he doesn't want to speak and Deb already spoke. So nobody else wants to speak towards this? All right, Ms. Deb, do you have anything else to want to say? No? Okay. So then it's, what time is it here? It's 7:25. We're gonna, yes, Sean?
Mr. Mayor, just real briefly, staff did review the brew pub use and is comfortable with that being removed from the, or being approved as an allowed use. And also the comments from ACHD, I do have the wording here, so if you just want to reference the wording that Ms. Nelson read into the record.
That's the same wording.
As a condition of the development.
It's in the report we just got, correct?
It's a little different than.
Oh, okay.
what's written in the report.
We'll
This
use
is what
we'll use that then.
Yeah, This accomplishes the same thing. And then finally, you will have staff work with their legal counsel on coming up with the revisions to the
Development agreement. Okay. All right. Okay, hearing that 7:26, I'm going to close the public hearing and go to council deliberations
All right, well,
and or a motion.
yeah, Mr. Mayor, I am perfectly fine with I assume Sean Brew Pub and wine tasting pretty much fall kind of in the same world.
They're all part of the restaurant use.
And the didn't mean to go into deliberations, but it sounds like we're okay with the building material, garden equipment and supplies. I'm just gonna make a motion that we approve this as is with the ACHD language.
And as stated right here with these changes here.
Yes. Oh, yes, with the requested changes to the conditions and the ACHD language as offered.
And the development agreement, what, do we have to put something else in there?
And
Sean?
have staff work with the applicant on the development agreement.
I just assumed you were going to do that anyway. But yes, those three specific conditions.
Is that clear as
one?
Is that clear, Ms. Dana? Are you writing it? Oh, he's writing it down? Okay. Okay, you're doing who's move. We got a motion. Do we have a second?
Before I'd second it, but I'd take the building materials out of that and leave it as staff recommended with the building materials, garden equipment supplies out of that equation for our center. For me, that would take away from that corner more than it would help. But I would support the brew pub or whatever and restaurants and everything else that was in that. It's just my opinion.
So you're saying take it out so you can't put that in there?
So the staff recommended this being not part of that equation.
So it's.
The staff
it's-
recommended as
The
a,
building materials and garden.
let me pull it
So,
up. Hold
so
on.
you're saying to keep it as conditional use, so
As-
that it would come back to council
Yeah.
instead
if
of be
it
a
were that- if it were
permitted
that use.
use. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be my opinion. And if it wasn't that, build on.
All right, well then, I'm okay with it. So I will go, I'm okay with it being a permitted use, and, part of the, design, the architecture design review, that it will be reviewed in front of that committee. So I'm okay with that use being approved here tonight. So I will go ahead and second it.
Okay, so hang on one sec. Yeah, real quick, because you seconded it with that condition on there. Leaving the
I
condition,
don't
but
think
you
you
can't do that. I think you have to. His motion was to approve it as it was stated by the applicant and whatnot, correct?
My motion was, yes, and my rationale is because it would become a consent agenda item. It could get pulled down and it could from there, if we did not like it.
You
from
could only
there-
change, you can't change the use.
No,
If you don't like it, you could just help.
what I mean,
Fix
if we
the
don't like
design.
inside the
Right.
design, Yes.
Yeah.
And we would have a chance to do things like that.
We'll let Chris speak to this real quick here.
I'll take Chris's motion.
But no, so you've got a motion.
We got the motion, but he seconded it with a different condition.
So the seconder can't change the motion.
Right.
So if the second is.
So
I would
he's not
second it
second.
if- Correct.
So
I
he
think
just,
it's not a
he just
valid
said he's
second.
not seconding it. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
And
So
so,
that's not a second,
Yep.
I did the,
the counter
if you
offer.
have any other
Yeah.
comments?
Yeah,
I made that
it was
up.
kind of a deliberation piece ahead of time before the
Yes.
second. So
You
you've
threw
got a
me
motion
off.
by Councilman Hershey and a second by Councilmember Solomon.
Correct. So we have a motion by Councilman Hershey, a second by Councilwoman Solomon.
A lot of
You do have the
extraneous
comments.
conversation from Councilman Wheelock.
Right, we have the conversation from Councilman Wheelock. So we have any further discussion? Outside of what you said?
Outside of what I said, no.
Okay, so hearing no more discussion, we'll do a roll call vote.
Hershey,
Aye. Aye.
Wheelock,
Hey,
Solomon,
Aye.
Okay, so that motion carries 2-1. Thank you. All right. That passed. Okay, on to item, let's see here. Gotta find this here. Item 7B, the public hearing on resolution for the police and fire mitigation fee. And so I'm gonna talk to this. I'm gonna open this public hearing at 7:31 PM. As you guys know, House Bill 389 has created such a challenge for us as we are growing as a city to be able to collect new construction growth to help us pay for our fire and police mitigation fees. Wait, okay. Or excuse me, police and fire through our property taxes. The Building Contractors Association has been very diligent in helping us try to resolve this challenge that we've had. I've been working with Dave Jorgensen and recently with Mr. Ken Burgess on this, and the BCA has come up with some mitigation fees in lieu of us having to put a building cap in place on this to cover this. And so this resolution, did you guys all read the resolution by chance? I know there's a question on a part of that, so we'll talk about that here in a sec, but this resolution will allow us to collect these mitigation fees for 2 years, where we're going to revisit it in 2 years with the BCA is going to try to do their best to help get 389 adjusted somehow in order for us to collect new construction on our property tax rolls to help pay for our police and our fire. And as we know that on the police side of this, it costs about $140,000 roughly a year for a new officer, which equates to 370 houses because we only levy 1.7 million in property taxes, which is one of the lowest. It is the lowest per capita in the valley, just so you guys are aware. Okay. So do you guys want to ask me some questions real quick on, I guess, can we do that, Chris? They can ask me questions first since we're the applicant on this.
Yeah, you'd want it as part of the public hearing, of course.
Yep.
So that's all. on the
And then
record.
I'll have anybody, if they want to come to speak, I will just let you know that the 2 members of the BCA, Mr. Mr. Ken Burgess, sorry, make your name a little longer to spell. And Mr. Dave Jorgensen have both signed up and said they're for this, but they're not, they don't want to speak, so they know what it's all about. So if you guys want to ask me questions, shoot.
Yeah, when does this
Yeah.
start? At what
So,
time?
okay, let me clarify something here too as well. It did not get published in the paper appropriately, so we're going to leave this public hearing open until October 4th. And we'll make a decision on that day for this, just so everybody's aware.
This,
So it'll be effective on October 5th.
the $1,120 per resident, is that for every single building permit?
So it's for all residential building permits. Yeah, regardless. And then if it's on a multifamily, it's per door, a multifamily. But it's actually, if you look at it, we're collecting both the police and the fire mitigation fees on here, which will allow the fire department and when they get their new station built on Floating Feather to fund their fire station personnel at that time. And hopefully in 2 years, we get this whole thing resolved, right? That's the key. Did you have a do you want to ask me that question?
Yeah.
Councilman Wheelock, go ahead.
Yeah, as I read through it, the City of Star through the comprehensive plan requires the following metrics to be met for public safety, and you skip to the second one. The City of Star will maintain a 4-minute or less response time on all code 3 calls. And I wondered if that needed to have some kind of a qualifier in there. We'll strive to maintain that because you can't guarantee anything without somebody being upset.
And that goes right along with the second bullet too.
I
Well,
thought maybe there should be some kind of a qualifier there.
Well, and it could be, but this is language taken straight out of our comprehensive plan, and that's why it's written right how our comprehensive plan states it.
That was just my,
No, no, I get that. That's absolutely
and
good.
the City of Star will maintain less than 18 crimes per 1,000 residents is hard to guarantee as well.
No, nothing's a guarantee on anything. It doesn't matter.
That's it. That's all I wanted.
Right, right. I'm using the exact same language that was out of the comprehensive plan for this, so there was no deviation from that is all. But I understand what you're saying. I get it.
Yeah, I had that same question about the 4-minute and the 18 crimes. I was trying to find it in the comp plan real quickly, but didn't see it. So that that's
Oh,
this
can you not
language
see
is
that?
pulled
Sorry.
directly from the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, that's the
I just
comprehensive
wanna
plan we
make sure.
approved in
Okay.
June.
Yeah, personally, I think that's great.
Okay.
Probably can't say that yet, though.
No, you can.
No, you can give your opinion. You just can't vote your opinion.
Yeah, okay.
My other,
I know.
my other question, sorry,
Go ahead.
is the fire mitigation fee of 1,200 per resident, whatever. How do we get that to the fire station? And how do we maintain that not be used in Middleton's half of that equation?
So we will put that agreement in place after this is in place as well with the fire station on how we're going to get it. If we're going to pay this to them quarterly or yearly, and with strict statements that is for Star Fire only for personnel and for personnel only on future stations.
So that the citizens of Star aren't paying for the
Correct.
Middleton firemen.
Yep. So that'll be done in an agreement with them. Yep.
Those are my 2 points.
It's the same thing with the City of Star. It's no different. The
Yeah.
money is strictly for police personnel addition. That's it. Nothing else. It can't be used for anything else
And
but that.
one quick question, administrative fees, is this going to be burdensome on us any way, shape
No.
or form? All right, I didn't think so, but I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm done with my questions.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I think it's pretty clear and yeah, I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Guys, and please recognize the fact that the BCA, when I went and met with them, they did a good job of stepping up to the plate to find a solution for the challenges we're facing based on the challenges we're getting from the state. And so, thank you, guys, for doing that. I do appreciate that. And if do you guys want to speak to it at all, or Chief, do you want to speak at all tonight, or you want to wait till October 4th? Okay. You guys you're good? Dave and Ken? All right. So we're going to leave this public hearing open, and do we have to do a motion to table it till October 4th? Or do we just table it or continue it to October 4th?
Yeah. You could do it by motion. I mean, you're already on the record. but
Okay.
I would do a motion just to continue it.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion to continue this to October 4th.
So moved.
Okay, we got a second?
Second,
Okay, real quick before, I'm sorry, is October 4th the right date? That is Tuesday. Okay, good. I just had to think about that. I was like, oh my goodness. So so we have a motion and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Salmonson,
I
Wheelock.
Aye.
Hershey,
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Well, that'll be continued to October 4th. We will move on to item 7C, the executive session. I entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we go into executive session, 74-206 Foxtrot, to talk with legal counsel.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. It is 7:39 and we're going to head into executive session. Huh?